It's officially the garden honeymoon, my all-time favorite stage of gardening. My plants are all in the ground and thriving, and my main job now is maintenance. My whole garden, with a few exceptions, is heavily mulched with leaves, which makes so that I don't need to do a ton of weeding and watering. The main harvests aren't coming in yet, so most of what I'm doing right now is things like gathering herbs and flowers, spraying my tomatoes occasionally to keep fungus at bay, and helping the vining crops climb up their trellises. There are a few crops that I'm harvesting right now, and today I'm going to be preserving those.
Michelle and the kids are getting started outside cutting up the broccoli. We have a huge preserving day today, so I'm going to be making breakfast while they're doing that. Michelle is going to be putting a whole bunch of broccoli in the freezer, and she's going to be making currant jam. She's also going to be making some like herb infused oils to use for lotions and stuff. Michelle also needs to be getting some of her herbs onto her drying rack to dry, but her drying rack is full, so she's going to be getting some of those off, crushing them and getting them into containers.
This broccoli is so much fun to cut up because it has absolutely no worms. My BT and peppermint oil absolutely worked this year. I only had to spray twice. If cabbage worms are destroying your broccoli, I have a solution for you. When I see the first white butterfly flying around in my garden, I know it's time to do war, since cabbage worms are the larval stage of these butterflies. BT is about to become your best friend. BT is a naturally occurring bacterium not harmful to humans and pets, but toxic to certain insects, including cabbage worms. In my solo sprayer full of water, I mix BT with a few drops of peppermint oil emulsified in a bit of non-toxic dish soap. The BT kills the worms when they ingest it, and the peppermint oil deters the moths. Be sure to spray the underside of the leaves where the worms feed. This solution also works for kale and other brassicas. I like to plant my broccoli early in the season so that I don't have to spray very much. And I also don't spray it anytime near to harvest, so I really just don't have an issue with BT. I grow a ton of broccoli every year because to me this is so much easier than green beans. I don't have to spend hours out in my garden picking green beans, and we don't have to spend hours snipping them and snapping them and canning them. I can just cut a massive head of broccoli off. We can come in here and have these florets done in just no time. And then I blanch them and freeze them. To me, this is so easy. I can use this for soup. It makes a really fast side. You can just take the frozen florets, drizzle them with olive oil and salt and pepper, and bake them at a high temp, and they're so good. The other thing that I love about broccoli is that it's often kind of ready all at the same time. And so I can just bring it in over a week's time, and then I can just preserve it all at once, which makes it super efficient and easy. I also think that broccoli is much easier than peas. Obviously, it's not just a complete replacement for peas, but I don't do peas because they take so long to shell. And then once you've shelled them, you have a small bowl of peas, and my family eats that in no time. So broccoli is the way to go for me and our family when it comes to efficiency. I'm gonna get my kiddos out here, and we are going to cut all this broccoli up, and then I will take it inside and blanch it after breakfast.
We are out of eggs right now. Our chickens just are not laying very well, and we lost some to hawks, and so we don't have very many chickens either. So we're waiting till those others grow up so we can have more eggs, and we've been getting some eggs from the neighbors, but I wasn't able to get any this morning. So for breakfast, we're gonna be having burgers for protein, and then we got this giant bag of puffed spelt at the Food Independence Summit from Stutzman Farms, and the children are eating it like cereal with like a little bit of honey or maple syrup on it. It is so good, so it is a really fun thing. So burgers and puffed spelt for breakfast this morning. I still really need to get that hard cheese made. Also gonna have some of Michelle's homemade barbecue sauce with these burgers. This stuff is so good. I will drop a link for the recipe card in the description box. And tomato season is coming up.
We have a bunch of leftover scraps from like the stalks of the broccoli. You can absolutely take those and like peel the skin off and then use them in salads and stuff. That would take us a really long time to peel all those things, so we're just gonna give them to our chickens for chicken feed. I'm very happy with this broccoli harvest. This came from 15 broccoli plants, I think. I'll have Cody put it on the screen if I was wrong. I have a bunch of currants here that we picked last week, and I didn't have time to take care of them last week because of the summit that we were speaking at, so I put them into the freezer. And today I'm going to make these into a jam. I'm gonna do some multitasking here, and I'm gonna have these cooking down a little bit while I wash the broccoli. Currants are very seedy, so I'm just going to cook these a little bit to get them really soft, and then I'm gonna put them through my food mill to get most of the seeds out. This broccoli is very clean. I did not find a single live worm on this broccoli when we were cutting it up. But if you do suspect that you have some worms in your broccoli, one thing my mom taught me was that you can wash your broccoli in salt water and the worms will let loose and float to the top. Some of you may think that's still very gross, I understand. But when you are gardening, especially organic gardening, there's just gonna be bugs sometimes. It's just part of life.
Extra protein.
That's gross. These currants, they remind me so much of rhubarb. They taste a little like rhubarb, they smell like rhubarb. This food mill is one of the most used items in my kitchen during canning season. Absolutely love this thing. We have one in our Amazon store that I approve of if you're interested in buying one of these. These currants are incredibly seedy. In order for us to enjoy eating this on toast, it's gonna have to, some of those seeds are gonna have to come out. Okay, this pulp is very dry now. We're left with a nice thick juice. It has just a few seeds in it, but the mill kept most of the seeds out. And I don't want it to be a jelly. I want it to have like some thick texture. These currants are very sour. They're kind of like rhubarb, so they're gonna need quite a bit of sugar to make them into a nice sweet jam. I'm going to try something very cool. It will be very cool if it works, let's put it that way. We work super hard to grow our own food, live off the land, preserve our own food, just to take care of our bodies in the best ways possible. So we're super excited to have Birch sponsoring today's video. Birch mattresses are made out of responsibly sourced materials like organic cotton, organic wool, and 100% natural latex. Birch mattresses are not made with polyurethane foams or fiberglass, which means they're not gonna off-gas like some other mattresses do. The fact that you spend a third of your life on a mattress makes this fact very important. The organic wool in this mattress is really good to help with airflow, to help you sleep cooler, which has been really amazing with all the hot weather lately. We've had this Birch Luxe mattress now for over half a year and we absolutely love it. I personally sleep a lot better on this mattress. We recently moved our toddler out of her crib, and so we got her a Birch mattress and she's really loving it. Not only is it keeping toxins out of her body, but it also has a firmer side and a softer side depending on the age of the child, which is super cool. With a Birch mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial, 25-year warranty, and 2 free Eco-Rest pillows, plus it gets shipped right to your door. It's super easy to set up, and they even offer in-home setup and removal of your old mattress to make things super easy for you. Right now is the perfect time to get yourself a Birch mattress because they're having a July 4th sale. So go on over to birchliving.com/morethanfarmers to get 25% off your mattress plus 2 free Eco-Rest pillows. We're making currant jam with, they're like a light pink currant, they're pink champagne. So I am going to juice a red beet and we're going to try to make it a little bit pinker. Not enough that you actually taste the red beet, but just enough to like give it some pop. That's so pretty, hold it. This is very messy.
Also looks like something bad happened here.
It totally did. Here is my very pink currants. I'm gonna be using Pomona's pectin for this jam. There was a lot of questions last time about where I got the calcium water to put in the jam. So the calcium water is gonna be in a packet. You just add this to water. All of the instructions are on this paper. It's very, very, very simple. So everything you need to make Pomona's pectin jam is going to be in this box. This is 4 cups of fruit and 2 teaspoons of calcium water. Then I'm gonna start with 2 cups of sugar and see if that makes it sweet enough. This is really, really sour, so we'll have to see if that's sweet enough for this. When I make jams and jellies and stuff, I use evaporated cane juice sugar, and I buy this in bulk from Dutch Valley. And then 2 teaspoons of pectin. Whenever I'm making jam, I'm very exact with my measurements.
Like the only time.
Like the only time in my life that I'm ever exact with ingredients. Our jam is at a rolling boil, or our fruit. So I'm just adding the pectin and the sugar. This may seem like a lot of sugar, but lots of recipes are actually like 1-to-1. And this is like a 1-to-2 ratio. So 2 parts fruit to 1 cup of sugar. This is all possible because the Pomona's pectin reacts with the calcium water to thicken instead of reacting with the sugar in the jam. So you can actually put 0 sugar into your jams and jellies if you want to. That's why I just love Pomona's pectin so much. This jam is already done. It literally just took a few minutes to make this, which is another reason why I love Pomona's pectin so much.
I am the official taste tester. Oh, that is super good. It's definitely sweet enough. And you know, if I say it's sweet enough, it's sweet enough. It's a very different flavor. It's very earthy.
That's really good. I wouldn't want it on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't think that would work very well. But what I imagine it on is like a piece of sourdough toast, like crusty bread with butter, and this would be really good.
That would be really good.
I'm actually really surprised that we didn't have to use more sugar than that. Often when your jam cools down, it's even sweeter than what it is like when it's hot. And this is definitely sweet enough hot, so.
It is so dark out here. It's weird. It's like noon. It's like the middle of the day. I think we're gonna get some rain. We've really been needing rain, so we were thankful for this, but only for a little bit. We're excited about the rain, but all of a sudden it's starting to hail.
Hail always makes me so nervous, like there's nothing I can do. I have water here on the stove that's at a rolling boil, so I'm just gonna quickly blanch all of this washed broccoli. People look at blanching a little bit differently here and there, I realized after I posted how I blanch on Instagram. I just get my water to a rolling boil, and then I drop the broccoli in and leave it for a minute and take it out. I don't do an ice water bath or anything like that. I just lay it out in a single layer. That's just always how I've done it, and I've never had any issues with it. But if you really do want to like stop the cooking for sure, you can put it in ice water. It just doesn't bother me, so I'm not gonna do it. And this blanching will keep your broccoli from getting yucky and mushy in the freezer. This broccoli is absolutely delicious when it's roasted. It's not like mushy and chewy. Spreading it out in a single layer helps it to cool down really quickly. And I also like for the broccoli to dry a little bit so that when you put it in bags, it doesn't just like all clump together. I do not put these cookie sheets into the freezer and have the broccoli freeze in a single layer. I don't find that necessary. I just put it in a thin layer in Ziploc bags, and then when you're ready to roast them, I just take the bag and drop it on the counter, and it all breaks apart and it works great. So one year I laid out towels and I put all of this broccoli out to dry and cool on the towels. I cannot tell you how bad the bath towels smelled after that, and I had to like bleach them to get all the smell out. So I am not using towels this year. I'm just laying them out on any kind of stainless steel surface that I can find.
Not only that, but she did that with green beans once, and the green beans tasted like towels.
Yeah, and then they tasted like towels. It just, don't do towels, guys. It doesn't work. This broccoli is cool and dry now, so I'm going to be putting it into Ziploc bags. I would encourage you to not skimp when it comes to Ziploc bags. I do not like off-brand freezer bags. They don't close as well. They're not as thick and tough. I like to put enough broccoli in a bag for one meal for us. And that is not gonna be like a solid full gallon, but I like to have a nice thin layer so that I can just drop the bag on the counter and the florets fall apart nicely. That way I can just stick them into the oven on a sheet pan frozen. Makes it really easy.
This is totally random, but while Michelle is cleaning up the kitchen and getting ready to do her herbs, I'm gonna plant a tree. I was at Tractor Supply the other day and I saw they had them half price and I just couldn't resist. Right in here somewhere. I need to go get a shovel and some compost for the hole. Well, I guess my tree fell over. This here is a plum tree. We have a few apple trees, a couple pear trees, a couple cherry trees, no plums. And I saw this tree and I just really couldn't resist. Right now might be a good time to check your local like nurseries and stuff for plants that they've got discounted. They might not look as nice, might be a little harder to get them established, but this was half price. It's worth a try. That rain that we got just a little while ago was a really nice rain, and we were really scared about the hail, but it only hailed for a tiny bit and it stopped, so everything is fine. Some of the plants in the garden looked like the wind hit it pretty good, but nothing was damaged or anything. Now the sun's out, it's kind of hot and humid out here, but this is really good growing weather, so we're thankful for that at least. It poured down rain. This soil down here is still really dry. I'm gonna put some of this compost down in the bottom, mix it up with that dirt down there, and then I'll save some of it to put around the bottom of the tree when I put it in the hole. This compost is alive. Hopefully it'll do a good job at helping the soil loosen up down here. I'm gonna pour 1 bucket of water on here right away. Then I wanna mulch this with leaves and pour another bucket of water on. This is a really low spot down here. When we get a lot of rain, it actually kind of floods in this area. So I built this up just a little bit so this thing doesn't get flooded. These leaves just got rained on and they're still pretty dry. We have tried growing a number of trees over the years, and one thing that we have found is that they will not grow well if they do not stay good and watered. So not only will these leaves right here help keep weeds from growing up right around it right away, it'll also help hold moisture in the ground. It's gonna be super important for this tree to get established.
We all took a rest. I had a nap and I'm feeling energized again, sort of. Cody's making himself a coffee, and this is the time that I would make myself a matcha, but yesterday I ran out of matcha. Amazon said they were gonna deliver it today and they didn't, so I'm out of a matcha, which is really sad. I'm just about ready to put some sourdough bread into the oven, so I guess that will be my snack. Maybe I'll have some fresh Currant jam on there. The next task at hand is to get all of these dried herbs into jars. They've been down on my drying rack. When it comes to stems and stuff, I don't usually worry about stems very much unless it's a seasoning that I'm going to be putting in like soups or on a steak or something like that. You don't want to bite into those hard stemmy pieces. This is parsley here, and so I'm kind of just trying to strip some of these leaves off because I just don't really want stems in my chicken noodle soup. This is apple mint. Apple mint has a very woody stem and it's very easy to strip the leaves off, so I'm just stripping the leaves off on these. I mixed some bread this morning My kiddos have been begging for the soft sandwich bread rather than the crusty artisan loaves, and so lately I have been making the soft sourdough sandwich bread, and it's really, really good. I'm using the recipe that's on the website Amber's Kitchen, sourdough sandwich bread. Super good, super easy. It's actually even easier than the stretch and fold kind that I made before, because you just mix the dough once and then you let it rise all day, put it in bread pans, let it set again and bake it. There's not all the stretching and folding, so I've been doing that. And we're gonna have some with our currant jam tonight. I'm going to do the parsley first. Don't overfill your blender when you're doing this, because then you kind of have to like almost powder your herbs to get all of them to go through. I just lightly fill my blender and then just pulse it a couple times. Parsley isn't quite as crunchy as some of them. This is apple mint. This is our very favorite tea. We use this during the winter. We use this during the spring and summer some, but mostly during the winter. And we ran out this year, so I'm trying to do a whole bunch. Ouch, these are still stingy. So next is my stinging nettle. This is all that I'm gonna do then for the year of the stinging nettle. I just like to add this to like mint tea or whatever teas I'm making. It just has like a very green flavor. It just kind of tastes like grass, but it's very, very nutritious. So it's like a vitamin. If you guys haven't noticed yet by now, I really, really love my Ninja blender. I don't know if like this specific model is still being sold, but I'll have Cody link a Ninja blender in the description box. I just feel like the Ninja is kind of like this really great hybrid between like a blender and a food processor. I just really, really like it. I use it for butter, I use it for herbs, I use it for literally everything. I will add too, you wanna make sure that your herbs are completely dried out. If you put your herbs into jars before they're completely dry, they'll get moldy. This happened to me actually this year with some of my calendula flowers. And sadly, I had to pitch a bunch of my calendula flowers because I guess they weren't completely dried out when I put them into a jar. And so some of them got moldy. So just make sure that everything's completely dry. This is so annoying when it's like almost too much for a quart jar. So I was gonna try to take the stems off of these red raspberry leaves, and they are still like terribly prickly. And so I'm not even gonna try. This is gonna be for tea, and so I'm just gonna leave the stems in there. So curious to see how this red raspberry leaf tea compares to the stuff I buy. It looks the same and kind of like clumps together. I'm really excited about this red raspberry leaf tea because I drink quite a bit of this in the winter time. It's very, very mineral rich. I'll let you look up all the minerals that it has. It's very good, especially for female organs, but it's also just really good for the whole family. I'm actually gonna make myself a cup of this just to try it out because I'm really excited about it. I'll probably put it over ice, mix it with a little bit of mint, and a lot of you guys are wondering like how I make tea, so I'll just show you guys how I do it. This here is the parsley. It turned out really good, and it actually like smells like it's retaining a lot of its flavor. Parsley can be a little bit tasteless after it's dried, but this stuff smells really nice. This is dill. This is the first year that I've actually dried dill, and it's kind of just like poofy, like in a cloud. So I'm just gonna pulse it in the blender and kind of see what it does. It smells super, super good. I can't wait to make pickles with this year. And dilly carrots. It's having a little bit harder of a time with the blender because I think it's like a cotton ball kind of. These calendula flowers are completely dry. You can hear you can hear that they're nice and crispy. So I'm just gonna put these into a jar, and sadly I had a whole bunch more than this. I had a whole quart, and I stuffed them into a jar before they were completely dry and they got moldy, so I had to throw them out. So we're just gonna do this anyways, but we're gonna do a pint instead of a quart. And I also have a ton more calendula flowers coming. So I'm gonna do the calendula. I'm also gonna do some rosemary. This is some dried rosemary. Rosemary is really good for any kind of wound. It's like has antiseptic properties. I'm gonna cover these dried calendula flowers in dried rosemary with some avocado oil. You can use any kind of oil, grapeseed oil, sunflower seed oil, all kinds of things, but I chose avocado just because it's something I have on hand. This oil will then be a really great base for lotions, salves, body butters. What I'm going to specifically be doing with this one is making a body butter with tallow, so like a tallow balm. I'm just gonna let this sit in a cupboard somewhere for a couple weeks, and then I will strain the herbs off, and I'll have a really beautiful infused oil to use in my tallow balm. I will be sure to show you guys how I make the tallow balm in a later video. You wanna be sure to use dried herbs for this oil. You don't want to put fresh herbs in here because your oil can go rancid because of the moisture that the herbs will put off. And you want everything submerged. You don't want anything sticking up out of there because it will get moldy. When I was pregnant, I made a belly butter and I did not get any stretch marks. I made it with calendula and horsetail shave grass, which is really good for skin, and it really helped. Now that all of these screens are empty, I have a whole bunch of stuff that needs to go onto the drying racks, but first we are going to stop and take a break and try out our fresh bread and currant jam. So my absolute favorite kind of tea is apple mint, so I'm gonna put a nice big heaping tablespoon of that in here. I'm going to do another teaspoon of red raspberry, and then like half a teaspoon of stinging nettle. You can make your tea in these awesome little things right here. I've had these for years and I love them. The kids will use these to make like a single serving tea. You can also use a tea ball. These are cool, but they're harder to make work. I do like how you can keep this tea ball like in your cup while you're drinking, not like I usually drink out of a quart jar, but in your teacup. These things have a finer mesh, and so it's less likely that any dust or tea will come out of these than it is with the tea ball. So if you're making tea for a large crowd, I love a good French press because you can just put your tea in the bottom, put this on here, fill it with hot water, press it down after 10 minutes, perfect. When you're making tea, you don't want to boil your tea in water. You want to just put your boiling water over the tea. I usually let my tea steep for absolutely no longer than 10 minutes. I usually just do it for 5 minutes. Your tea will start tasting cooked if you let it sit for too long. I'm just going to push this down a tiny bit to make so that the leaves are down in the hot water.
What an annoying jar of honey.
I'm just gonna pour a little bit of hot tea into this honey because if you try to stir honey into a cold iced tea, it will not incorporate. That's good. This bread turned out lovely. It's nice and soft and bendy.
Some of our beautiful yellow homemade raw butter. The bread is still a little warm. I got the butter out earlier, so it's nice and soft. And look at that, just like gorgeous yellow. Some jam set up very nicely. Oh, that's really good. Rich butter and the tartness of the jam. Perfect. By the way, I designed this mug myself. You can get it in our Etsy shop.
It's really, really good. Like when I tasted it, it's like it tastes familiar yet different. And I think apple butter is what I'm thinking of. So good. These are calendula flowers that I'm going to dry downstairs. This is parsley, and this is basil right here. These are chamomile flowers that I'm drying. I'm going to run these racks down to my basement. I've got a DIY drying rack set up down there. If you guys would like to see that setup, check out this video right here.
Hey, raw herb sniffer.